Hello! Welcome to 70 Years, 70 Muppets, a Muppet fan podcast presented by toughpigs.com. This is the podcast where we celebrate the Muppets' 70th anniversary with 70 straight weeks of spotlights on our favorite Muppet characters, from the most popular to the most obscure. I am this week's host, Katilyn, and the Muppet of the Week is Zoot, originally performed by Dave Goelz and currently performed by Dave Goelz. He was designed by Bonnie Erickson and built by, that's right, Dave Goelz. He made his world debut in, at least according to the linear timeline, 1975, on The Muppet Show Sex and Violence, alongside the other members of the Electric Mayhem. Here with me to discuss Zoot is a guest who may also be unstuck from time. Guest, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Becca Petunia from toughpigs.com. I'm so glad to be here on this, the 96th week of 70 Years, 70 Muppets.
At 96? Are you sure it's that few? I thought we were, way beyond that. But I guess time just flies when you're discussing
remember, last
Muppets.
week was Leroy the Donkey, and then next week, spoilers for people in the audience, next week is going to be Shrinkle and Stretchel. I'm surprised they got 2 weeks because there's so much to say about both of them.
Becca, we're not supposed to leak this information. Disney is going to have our heads.
Oh, don't worry. By the time this episode comes out, next week's episode will have been, 2.5 years ago.
Oh, I forgot already. Someday I'll have this all figured out. Well, thank you for joining me on this journey in trying to comprehend the incomprehensible Zoot. Zoot is most identifiably the saxophone player in the Electric Mayhem. He is the first of that band that we've encountered in this project, or have we already done everyone? We've definitely done the bongo playing person. I'm pretty sure. So maybe he's the second.
Bongo playing one is a key player in the Electric Mayhem. I'm ready for his return any day now. As I said in that episode, with my special guest, every member of Guster.
Wow, I can't wait to hear that. Zoot is described by his performer as a 50-year-old burnt-out musician who's lived in a series of hotels, and his life was just music. And beyond that, his life was unknown and unknowable. And for the 2023 television show The Muppets Mayhem, when each member of the band would receive a spotlight, Dave Goelz added this information to Zoot's character. What if he's surreal? Well, Becca, what if he's surreal?
Well, I mean, it's so interesting that you ask that because I'm always wondering, what if I'm surreal?
What is surreal? Well, I looked it up. It
involves apples, right? Face apples?
Yes, that is a key part of Muppet Babies, I believe. We have seen many face apples on paintings in the background.
Face apples, trains coming out of the wall, ants on clocks.
The space in the
elephants
closet.
With long legs. These are all things that I know are surrealism.
So Merriam-Webster defines it as being marked by intense, irrational reality, or the reality of a dream. But it is a whole art and philosophy movement, as we've been alluding to with various Magritte and Dali paintings. And it's marked by tapping into what we can't quite grasp, or letting our subconscious through before we can consciously control our hand or our thoughts or our words. So feel free to just speak in word salad for the rest of this episode.
Wow, that's a lot of responsibility. I mean, my doctor told me that I should eat more salad, so maybe it's something I have to do. But I do think it is interesting to think about Zoot as a sort of surreal figure, because, and Katilyn, I don't know how much I'm allowed to speak about the timeline that is, as opposed to the timeline that could be. But that's not necessarily a thing that we really saw from Zoot originally. And it's worth noting, in season 1 of The Muppet Show, Zoot has a lot more lines than he will in pretty much anything else until Muppets Mayhem. And most of those lines are just, musician jokes. And they're pretty funny musician jokes. We see a lot of him and Janice as a duo because Jerry Nelson, who would later become Janice's partner, Floyd, was unable to perform most episodes of season 1 of The Muppet Show, which is why there's a lot less of Floyd and a lot more of Zoot. And it's been said that as sort of the season 2 started, Dave Goelz didn't really want to do as many just musician jokes with Zoot. He felt like that was not something that he was comfortable with, and he kind of asked Jerry Nelson to sort of take the lead on the Electric Mayhem stuff with Floyd. And that's why Floyd, even though not being the front man of the Electric Mayhem, kind of becomes the main character of the Electric Mayhem, because obviously Jim Henson was busy with Kermit, so it couldn't be Dr. Teeth, and it wasn't going to be Animal, and it just wound up being Floyd. But it really is the sense that, like, I get when we say that Dave Goelz wanted Zoot to be surreal, because it kind of feels like Dave Goelz didn't know what to do with Zoot for decades after that first season of The Muppet Show. And he really is someone who speaks very little, usually is half asleep, and that, I guess, gets us to the kind of dreamlike aspect of surreality, that Zoot is usually asleep. And anyway, 12 goats and 2 oranges.
Ah, and that makes me think of a chrysanthemum. So we have in juxtaposition to Zoot, Lips, who also didn't come in until the 5th season of The Muppet Show, and also did not have quite a defined personality until recently. But yet I would argue that Zoot is the less known Muppet of the Electric Mayhem, despite having been there from the beginning.
Hold on, are you saying that you think Zoot is less known than Lips?
I would. Lips is always there, whereas Zoot, when we do see him, is wandering through the woods in a Rocky Mountain holiday, or he's flying in the clouds in Mr. Blue Sky.
That is true. Lips is sort of more focused on the material world of interpersonal relationships kind of being, one of Lips's things. And, it is our material possessions and our interpersonal connections that I think tether us to this plane. Whereas Zoot doesn't have as much of that. He doesn't really have any friends outside of the Electric Mayhem. And that's kind of, it's interesting because that does sort of make him this kind of mystical, surreal figure. This mystical, surreal, kind of rutabaga cracking in through the sky.
It's true. So, as you said, that he doesn't have quite the same material physicality as the other characters. As I said earlier, Dave said that what he has is music in his life. And so perhaps he is just following the music as some Pied Piper leads him through the opening in reality into some other reality.
Well, it's interesting because, as a puppet, in a way, isn't he being led from reality to reality by a Pied Piper named Dave Goelz?
Named Dave Goelz. And Dave likes to say he has no musicality to him.
Isn't Boober Fraggle just the guiding force that gets Zoot from place to place?
Oh no, we've crossed paths with Fraggle Rock, and now we've got to integrate that into this into our current understanding of the Muppet Show reality. And I think that if anything does anchor him so that he can play in the band, it is the band members. Do you think they have their own sort of powers to keep Zoot rooted for at least the length of a of a set, of a concert
Well, I
set.
mean, I think that's kind of the thing, is like, I don't think it's necessarily the members that anchor him as much as it's the music that anchors him. I think that music is the thing Zoot understands that we can understand. When Zoot is playing music, music exists in our reality, and music exists in Zoot's reality. And that is the sort of cosmic anchor that ties Zoot to us. If Can You Picture That is playing, Zoot knows how to communicate in that sphere in a way that we know how to communicate in that sphere. I can make music. Everyone makes music. Zoot is everyone. Zoot is music.
Zoot is music. Music is the nexus by which we can connect Zoot to the mayhem, the Fraggles to the Muppets, and the Ditzies to the world, and that's where we get our sunshine.
As the sage once said, what makes music? Anything makes music. I don't remember the next lyric, but if you have the Sesame Disco album that Kermit the Frog is on, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Ah, the Disco Frog. Kermit's favorite song where he sings everywhere he goes.
It's true. Yeesh, he's the Disco Frog, as the song goes. I know that one.
Now let's think about how we see Zoot where it's just him. So in the Tony Randall episode of The Muppet Show, we see him in the Yakety Yak segment, and it's the past, the Stone Age, with a bunch of pigs. How did he, and then Zoot, there is no other mayhem. How did he get there? Has he always been there? Did he just show up because, music has been eternal?
Well, I think it's important to realize that, the Muppet Show is a performance. They're not actually in the Stone Age. Except Zoot is actually in the Stone Age. I think the pigs are not, but Zoot is. And this is another example where the act of making music links the timelines together. The pigs are in 1979. I don't remember what season that was. The pigs are in 79, and Zoot is everywhere.
And and that's just when the veil between us and the astral plane gets thin, and he can step into where our human eyes and our human senses can start to understand the allness that is Zoot.
It's true.
Now, do we think any of this has to do with drugs?
Now, in what sense are you asking that? Because I would say that in the Muppets 2015 ABC show, which I recently rewatched most of at 3 times speed, looking for Yolanda clips, Zoot is almost definitely and explicitly on drugs on that show. There's a joke about Zoot in the first episode where Zoot asks where they are. The Muppets tell him they're at a meeting, and then Zoot starts giving what sounds like an AA or NA speech before Floyd is like, Zoot, it's not that kind of meeting. And there is that kind of sense with the mayhem, with the joke that they kept using in the trailers and pilot and all of those things about how the Electric Mayhem is happy now legally. I think there was definitely a sense of them trying to use drugs as a way to explain all that is Zoot. But I don't know if that's just the way that our minds can conceive of something as Zoot.
That's true, very true. Or perhaps even, the drugs were the way in which they were keeping Zoot inside of our reality so that he didn't wander away into the ether.
True, wander away into the Rocky Mountain holiday. I feel like in Muppets Mayhem, they kind of moved somewhat away from that, though. And I think, Dave Goelz seems to suggest that Muppets Mayhem is when he maybe felt the most comfortable with Zoot, because when he was the most comfortable with portraying a level of surreality to Zoot. And I think we see that, in particular with Zoot's friend, who presumably he met, in another realm, in another time, in another existence. I'm of course speaking of Jimmy Shue.
Now, what do you think attracts Jimmy Shue to our reality? Is he just attached to Zoot?
Well, I mean, quite literally, yes. He has been laced to Zoot, both in a cosmic sense and a literal sense.
The Muppets Mayhem does show Zoot in sort of his most baffledness that he is still a part of the goings-on. All of his ending credit sequences where he's taking pictures, he was often surprised that he was facing a different direction. Or he wasn't so surprised to be taking a picture with a slice of cheese.
I think it's important also that Zoot knows we're there, right? In those credit sequences with Zoot knows we exist. And it's worth noting that in the credits to The Muppet Show, Zoot knows that studio logos exist. Because when he blows the horn, the studio logo comes out of his horn, and he looks at it.
He does see it fly through, so he can see multiple layers. Perhaps
And
Zoot...
he can see us. When he's taking a picture, what is he taking a picture of? He's taking a picture of me. He's taking a picture of me, and of you, and of Joe Hennis, and of...
No. Those people only think that Zoot is taking a picture of them. He's actually taking a picture of me.
Oh, that makes sense. Wow, I can't believe it. Somebody else made a reference to that line other than me. Now we're talking surreal.
I mean, we have to talk about how Zoot, Waldo C. Graphic, and even Gonzo have this ability. Maybe perhaps not quite so... They don't embody it quite as well as Zoot does. They only have temporary access to it.
Well, here's the thing that I'm realizing as you say that. Muppet Show family Muppets who can see us and interact with us are all blue.
Oh. So, do you think that they're part of the heavens?
I think that that's the only conclusion we can draw here, is that Zoot and Gonzo and Waldo C. Graphic are something divine, something from above, from the ether. And if you've noticed, Zoot is Mr. Blue Sky.
He does ride in clouds. Perhaps that video is showing us a little bit of how Zoot perceives our world. It may seem a little made of recycled bits and kind of two-dimensional, not quite as all-encompassing.
Which makes sense, because if Zoot is from some kind of fourth-dimensional plane, him looking at us is like us looking at a two-dimensional plane.
No wonder Waldo C. Graphic is like that.
Exactly, because Waldo C. Graphic is right in the threshold between 3D and 2D, funny and not funny. He can walk the line so well.
Perhaps he has forsaken us.
Worth including in a story and not worth including in a story. It's brilliant.
Who's to say one or the other? Everything is included. Everything is funny, and that makes everything not funny. What are we to take from this? I'm starting to think, Becca, that a religion is forming right now.
Which is interesting, because to the best of my knowledge, and believe me, I have a lot of knowledge, barring side characters like the rabbi that Fozzie pulls out of his hat in a season 4 episode of The Muppet Show, I think Zoot is the only Jewish Muppet.
Yes.
We've got Zoot.
I think you can only do one per franchise. So you've got Baby Bear in Sesame Street and Zoot in the Muppets.
And then in Fraggle Rock, you have Tosh.
Ah, I do remember that Fraggle Rock episode now, where they light the menorah with Ditzies, and that bar mitzvah scene though, that was rough.
Yeah, I mean, I wish it wasn't so gendered, but you know I always say that. I mean, I think it is interesting though. I have some thoughts about how Zoot is the only Jewish Muppet in a way that I'll tell you I genuinely don't know how to conceive these thoughts in our universe. And this isn't a bit. I have no idea what my thought is on the fact that Zoot is the only Jewish Muppet. I have no opinions on that. Or at least none that exist in a way that is tangible.
Perhaps after you've had some time to meditate and reflect on this fact, you can write it all up in an article for Tough Pigs and not have to...
I have been thinking about it.
You won't have to coalesce all of that Zootness into a podcastable form at this time.
I mean, isn't that the great thing about writing, though? Is that when I write my deep thoughts about Zoot, they are no longer haunting me, possessing me. It's something that I can spread out to the entire internet, or at least the 12 or 15 people who actually read the articles on Tough Pigs, instead of just looking at the headlines and commenting, I wish The Muppet Show Season 4 would come to DVD.
We all know that that is a relevant response, no matter what the article is. I was reading about Hurricane Milton, and I asked the same thing, and everyone was on my side. They also wanted to know.
Because hurricanes are in the sky, Zoot is in the sky, Zoot is in Season 4 of The Muppet Show.
It just makes
But not that
sense.
often. There isn't a lot of Electric Mayhem in Season 4. It's a little weird.
So yes, we can spread this idea. We can spread these philosophies. We can create perhaps a server to serve this information to the public, perhaps, and then create discord among the people.
Wait. Katilyn, I just got a great idea.
Yes?
Why don't you and I make a Tough Pigs Discord server? and you and I could like co-manage it. And it would be good because then people could comment on the articles that we write for Tough Pigs and also post their thoughts on the Muppets and the Muppets 70th anniversary. I think this would be great, and I think this is something that we should have done like 1 year ago.
Becca, you are brilliant. Let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen.
Okay, I am making a note to myself to give to Zoot to provide to me at the correct time when he returns in his blue TARDIS.
Blue.
So that we can have done this at the time of this recording. We'll have done.
And you know the only Muppet Show clip I watched this week?
What is that?
Helen Reddy performing Blue on The Muppet Show. That's true, actually. You can check my YouTube history.
We've just uncovered the meaning of the universe. It'll be...
That song has been stuck in my head all week. You can ask my spouse. I've been singing it way too much.
Mr. Blue Sky, Blue Muppets. Oh, Mr. Johnson, what have you not been telling us this whole time?
Why do you think he goes to Grover all the time? You'd think he'd learn, but every time is his first time and his 20th time at the same time.
Grover is the only waiter in the multiverse.
Except for Pino. Performed by Dave Goles, performer and builder of Zoot.
I think we know what we have to go and do now. We have our task And now we must spread the word.
Well, if you want to find me on the internet, I suggest you do so on the Tough Pigs Discord when it exists, wherever that may be. I'm at Tall Girl Petunia there. Oh, look, it does exist. It has existed, it always has existed, and it never has existed. I'm at Tall Girl Petunia on the Tough Pigs Discord and at Tall Girl Petunia on most social media. Katilyn, thanks for having me here to talk about Zoot.
Thank you, Becca. It will be wonderful to talk to you about this. I'm glad you could make it.
Oh, I'm so glad. I haven't really watched any Muppet clips this week in preparation for this. I did watch Helen Reddy singing Blue, but hopefully that'll be enough for us for this episode. So, Katilyn, what did you have in mind for the Zoot episode?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Becca, because today I would like to come to a better understanding of Zoot, or come to a better understanding of ourselves. But do we need to? Perhaps we just have to accept that the few human senses we have evolutionarily honed for our own survival are not enough to comprehend the enigma that is Zoot.
And in conclusion, and in beginning, welcome to Hubbawa, the Muppet Quiz Show brought to you by ToughPigs.com. I'm your host, Becca Petunia of ToughPigs.com.
Now, here's Jared Fairclough with a message from the future. Or the past.
70 Years, 70 Muppets is a Muppet Fan podcast presented by ToughPigs.com. Hosted by a whole myriad of people and edited by them as well. Produced by Jared Fairclough. The Muppet 70 logo used with permission by the Muppet Studio with thanks to Danny Iglesias, Frank Reich Snyder and Lee Slaughter. Don't forget to follow ToughPigs.com on all social media platforms. You can support us by heading to patreon.com/toughpigs or buying a t-shirt at tpublic.com/toughpigs.